You're on CYInterview.
I'm Kristen, featured columnist Jay Billstein is with me today on CYInterview. We welcome back frequent guest Dr. Kristen Willeumier to talk about her anticipated new book, Biohack Your Brain, How to Boost Cognitive Health, Performance, and Power. Dr. Willeumier, thanks for being with us on CYInterview, and congratulations.
Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be here with you today, Kristen. I always love coming on CYInterview.
Oh, we appreciate it very much as well. So since the book release, how would you describe the reaction, and what has this experience been like getting to tell so many people about your story?
Oh, thank you so much for asking that question. It's really been an overwhelming experience emotionally. That was something that I really hadn't anticipated. We've known one another for almost a decade, and this is the first time that I've really come out in a public way to share all of the research and knowledge that I've gleaned through having a 20-year career in the fields of neuroscience and psychiatry. And, the work is being met with just such positivity, and I didn't realize how much I could inspire people through sharing stories of things that have happened in the clinical setting and sharing our research. So it's been extraordinary. And what I thought would be a 1-month book tour has turned into, I think I'm heading into the 4th month. And it's just been wonderful.
What do you think people are most taking away from this book and the reaction you have seen so far?
Well, one of the reasons why I wrote this book is I wanted to make sure people understood that they could take care of their brain health through the choices that they are making on a daily basis. And in the clinical setting, we've shown within a 6-month period of time, dietary and lifestyle modifications can make a change in the physiological function of the brain that we can show using clinical neuroimaging. And I think that's why this book is really different from a lot of the brain health books that are out there, because it takes the guesswork out of what things really, which choices you can make that work. And I think that's one of the things people didn't realize. They didn't realize they could influence the blood flow to their brain, that they could influence the ability to actually grow new neurons in regions of the brain important in learning and memory. They didn't realize how much power they would have in being able to balance the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system, and that they could do this in a way that is measurable in the clinical setting.
Jay?
Well, first of all, Dr. Willeumier, I think we're spoiled here at CYInterview because we've had such a wonderful opportunity with you over the course of the decade to have you, come on with us and speak to our listeners about a myriad of topics that are covered in the book. I want to circle back to the topic at hand. The subtitle of the book, I think, says it all because it talks about improving brain health at any age. Have you seen in each decade of life, are there studies that exist that say in your 40s you could change your brain this much, but in your 80s you can only change this much? Does that plasticity continue to exist to the end of life for the person who is open and willing to make the changes?
There are numerous studies that are in the peer-reviewed research literature that show that we can change the brain at any age. Now, I've seen this in working in a clinical psychiatric setting where we use neuroimaging, and we've worked with patients in their 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, people who've had frontotemporal lobe dementia, where we can see using neuroimaging the regions of the brain that have very low perfusion. And by working with these patients, putting them on a brain-healthy diet, changing their lifestyle, working with their lab values and optimizing them, we've been able to make notable improvements in blood flow and activity patterns and really help to support their quality of life. But to your point, in the greater research literature, there's been some incredible studies done, for example, looking at dietary approaches to help slow down and reverse brain aging. And one of my favorites is following the MIND diet, which is a combination of the Mediterranean-style diet and the DASH diet, which is the dietary approaches to stop hypertension. Participants who are older, who followed the MIND diet rigorously, could slow down brain aging by as much as 7.5 years, and those who followed it moderately could slow it down by 4.5 years. This is literally slowing down the degenerative processes in the brain, and this can be done through diet and lifestyle. So that's just one illustration. There are so many papers out in the peer-reviewed literature. You can look at older people who, consume 1 to 2 servings of fish per week over the course of years, can grow brain volume in the hippocampus. So a short answer to your question is yes, this information is in the peer-reviewed literature. Just a lot of people who are not scientists, right, aren't out there researching it. This is why people like myself have to put the information in books and help to be a cheerleader, if you will, encouraging people to start doing these habits consistently over time. One of my favorites being a study that came out of Harvard. It was a 20-year longitudinal study looking at dietary patterns in people, and they found that those who consumed strawberries and blueberries twice a week, again, over the course of these 20 years, could slow brain aging by as much as 2.5 years. So imagine something as simple as having a cup of strawberries or blueberries twice a week. Again, you have to practice it consistently over the course of years, can slow down your brain aging. And to me, I think that's extraordinary, and this information has to sort of permeate into our consciousness, and people need to know how important their dietary habits are in literally slowing down their brain aging.
If I understand correctly, you said by consuming 2 cups of blueberries per week, slow down brain aging by 2.5 years? 2.5
years, yep. And it also reduces cardiovascular events. So they found that to reverse cardiovascular events by 1/3. So you're actually helping not just your brain health, but your cardiovascular health as well.
Now that brings up something interesting for me. So I probably eat a cup of blueberries 3 times a day, every single day.
I know.
And as I'm listening to, well, yeah, I'm actually thinking that it explains my infantile behavior, because since, if you have 2 cups a day for a week, for what period of time? It brings it down 2.5 years. I brought down my brain's age to about 3, which explains a lot about myself and my errant actions and the way I behave. With that being said, I remember Dr. Michael Greger, who has a wonderful site called nutritionfacts.org. I think one time he said he had I don't know if it was his patient or somebody came up to him at a seminar, and they were talking about how, what I'm going to say right now is going to border on apocryphal. I don't remember the exact amount, but they ate something like 7 pounds of greens in a day, something crazy. Is there a danger of overdoing it? Now, I know, listen, you could probably kill yourself with drinking too much water. Can someone do too much fish, too much blueberries, too much greens? How do we kind of keep people in check from going overboard?
You make me laugh. I will tell you, the CDC says that 1 out of 10 Americans eat the correct servings of fruits and vegetables per day. So they recommend 3 servings of vegetables and 2 servings of fruits per day. So for some reason, I have a funny feeling that most people aren't going to overdo green leafy vegetables or fruits. And, I would actually applaud that if they did. In this case, more is going to be better for you, because the fruits and vegetables have all of the polyphenols and antioxidants, which can cross the blood-brain barrier and help protect your neurons from dying. And the one thing I don't think most people know, unless you're a neuroscientist and you're looking at neurons in a dish and seeing what makes them die and what keeps them alive, a lot of people just don't have this concept of wanting to protect their cellular health or neuronal health. But the brain, being 2% of the body's weight, really utilizes 20% of its oxygen and glucose, so it's a highly metabolically active organ. And what that means is we need to make sure that we're providing antioxidants. So when something's metabolically active, it kicks off a lot of free radicals, and these free radicals can poke holes in the cell membrane, so damage the cell membranes and can get in and damage the DNA. The antioxidants that we get from the berries, like the acai berries, raspberries, mulberries, blueberries, strawberries, and all of the great green leafy vegetables and colored vegetables, really go to help bind those free radicals and neutralize them so they don't damage our cells. This is why having, again, the 3 servings of vegetables and 2 servings of fruits per day at minimum. You can go up to 10 servings, and that's, in this case, more is going to be better. And this is why it's going to be helpful for your long-term health. And the other thing is it will help reduce the inflammation in your brain. So not only are you getting the good antioxidants, they're anti-inflammatory. When we think about chronic diseases of aging, they all have inflammation. Chronic inflammation is one of the main drivers.
Very, very compelling. As you're speaking, it just it's just so fascinating. All the different things, all the different modalities that can be utilized for our health in general and brain in specific, and it just raises the question to me. I've grown up for years. I remember when I was a kid, I think there were what they call Christmas seals, or there were different things you could buy to put on. This is, I don't know if many of our listeners will even know these things existed, because everything today is email and text and WhatsApp and all these different things online. But back in the days of the mail, there were Christmas seals, Easter seals, all this kind of stuff, and you would give money to the March of Dimes, and you would give money to all these things, and the American Heart Association.
Yeah.
It just makes me think that the brain, it just spectacularly makes no sense. Why has the brain of all organs been the orphan organ?
Forgotten.
I mean, it's like,
it's like
the brain is the forgotten organ.
Yeah, until your mother or your grandmother has Alzheimer's or somebody has Parkinson's, people really don't think about the brain until a neurodegenerative disease hits, or God forbid, somebody has a glioblastoma. I feel like I've seen brain tumors on the rise. But you're right, it is the organ that we don't think about. Most people are thinking about the heart, the liver, the kidneys, they think about diabetes, they think about cancer. But you're right, I'm not getting things in the mail saying support my local Alzheimer's Foundation.
Support your brain, brain week.
It's true. I think, given that we've just had this global pandemic, we're at the year mark, the first anniversary. I feel like the pandemic has actually made people think more about their brain health, and that's because we've got people who are struggling, who are COVID long haulers. So they've got brain fog and anxiety and depression and fatigue, and they can't concentrate. And so I feel like the brain is now going to get its time in the spotlight, and I feel like people are going to start thinking more about their brain health because it's so connected to their mental health.
What a lag, though. It's just, as you said that, I'm growing up with Easter. I'm growing up with it. Everything has some kind of drive to help it and improve it and to people coalesce, and it's like the poor brain that's
people
running everything.
Yeah, they don't want to coalesce around it until it's, we're talking about a neurodegenerative disease, right? Alzheimer's or Parkinson's. But maybe, it's a good point. I mean, I just think people don't think about the organ that runs their life.
They don't think about the organ they're thinking with. With that said, on a personal level, you are a consummate scientist. I mean, people should, when they listen to you, you have the rare gift of being able to take very, very complicated information, and I've had the great pleasure of this personally with you, where I'll read an abstract because, that's just my own strangeness. Other people play golf, and I go to the National Institutes of Health in my spare time and just read, random abstracts because I find them interesting.
You do.
And I remember times I've contacted you and said, what the heck does this mean? And, when I read this stuff, it's not my first rodeo. And you're always able to convey the information in a friendly, accessible, kind, easily digestible way. Well, you're welcome. What I do wonder is you're now in the media spotlight, and that's different than being in the, it's kind of different than being in the scientist spotlight where you're dealing with other scientists and all. Is it a heady experience? Do you feel shy? Do you like the experience? Do you like doing a lot of media? Or is it like, I'm doing it in service to the information I've spent my life's work on, and I've got to get it out there, but gee whiz, I don't know, maybe I'd rather be in the lab.
It's such a great question you ask, because you've known me for a long time, and I sort of have two sides to me. I've got the introverted scientist side, where I really love to just get into the knowledge, and I appreciate being behind the scenes in a laboratory setting, dissecting brains and understanding why things happen. And then I have a side that is quite extroverted, and I've worked in a clinical setting, and I love working with patients and helping them and teaching. And I found that doing this work in the media, and I know I've shared this with you personally, nobody can really prepare you for what it's like to put your first book out into the world. And, I've clearly given presentations, nationally, internationally, in front of my peers and colleagues, but doing this sort of on a more global scale, whether I'm talking to you or doing a podcast or being on national television, it's so different because I feel as if I'm this conveyor of information and I'm just waiting to hear what kind of question comes out. And it's really been a fascinating experience because it's drawing from all of my levels of knowledge, whether that, again, is from a laboratory setting, and understanding what happens at the level of the single cell and how cells communicate with one another, and what is synaptic plasticity, and seeing how neurons make these processes and connect with their neighbors. And that's sort of a different level of knowledge and information than being in a clinical setting, right? A clinical psychiatric setting where the goal is to help patients live their best quality of life. And that's where you get into understanding how dietary and lifestyle modifications and how the technologies we have can help to change brain function or stabilize brain function. And so doing media is allowing me to draw upon these two sort of very diverse areas of expertise that I have. And it's been really fun and rewarding because, as you know, I come on this show and you can ask me any question. I'm going to tell you my honest answer. Or like when you ask me about the abstracts, which you send quite frequently, and I love them because there's the knowledge that comes out and gets published on PubMed, there's so much new information. We're continually learning about the brain and changing and evolving. And I'm, doing media right now in the middle of this global pandemic, and we're learning about how COVID impacts the brain. And, people are asking my point of view and how is this going to impact us neurologically? And is there going to be a tail to this? Is this going to, are people going to have consistent mental health problems? And is this going to lead to a form of dementia that we don't know about? So it's, long story short, I've loved doing the media. It's really different. It's something that takes getting used to. I'm not used to doing it every single day, but I'm starting to get a cadence and I'm becoming more comfortable with it. And I'm really doing this, as you said, out of service to humanity and being able to help share the knowledge that I've seen that's worked in the clinical setting. And as you know, we've published a lot of manuscripts, and having worked at the Amen clinics, I've seen thousands of brain scans and helped them put their brain imaging database together, which has over 150,000 images. So I've seen a lot, and I'm hoping that the information I have to share can really help transform people's lives.
Well, I can attest to it. And I would say we've written it. We put this on CYInterview. We're going to say it again. If you read any book in 2021, and hopefully our people are readers in an age of, whatever it is now, 200 some odd characters on Twitter and little kind of snippets on Facebook and all. Reading is still important. Reading books is still important. The book to read for 2021 is Biohack Your Brain by Dr. Kristen Willeumier, period, end of sentence. And it is a book that should be read once, then it should be read again, and I don't want to put pressure on you because I know how much you've got going on, but I would love to see a companion workbook. I'd also love to see a cookbook because there's a lot of what you do, and what I find very encouraging is, it's not a book that simply tells people, take this medication or take that medication. Not that you're negative on that per se, but there is so much in there that revolves around food, exercises, things we can do for ourselves. I mean, something I started doing because of the book is every day writing the alphabet with my left hand. I mean, just as small little things. Little and often over the long haul. I was very heartened by that. I really hope you come out with a cookbook. I really hope you come out with a workbook and then Biohack Your Brain too. I think a workbook would be tremendous because it might create some structure for people to take the information from the book and go forward. But the book is astonishing in the ability to take complex information, and please take it from me, somebody who actually has to send Dr. Willeumier text messages and say, what the heck does this mean? If you get Biohack Your Brain, you don't have to drive yourself crazy online by not understanding the information. The information in the book is readily accessible. It's fun. It has some wonderful examples in it, and it's the book to read in 2021 and beyond.
Wow, that is so beautiful. You have touched my heart yet again. Thank you for that extraordinary endorsement. And, it's such an honor being here on CYInterview, as always, with you and Chris. And, this book has a lot of meaning to me. It's helped, thousands of patients. And I tell, in every chapter there's a client story and an NFL story. I wanted it to be really fun and accessible, making brain health a fun topic that every family can start to embrace. And I will definitely take it to heart. I think a companion workbook would be great. I will think about doing a cookbook. I mean, I used to teach all of our athletes and patients about the proper dietary approaches to staying healthy, and I've created menus for my group, so that actually wouldn't be hard to do.
Yeah, no, but let's start at the beginning for everyone listening. Don't walk, don't run, don't even drive. Just get on you're listening to us right on the computer. Just go there, get over to Amazon, or Chris will have a link up, I'm sure, on CYInterview where people will be able to click over and get the book. And I'd like to finish with one more statement: get the book and read it. Chris?
So for neuroscientist Dr. Kristen Willeumier, featured columnist Jay Bilstein, and CYInterview, I'm Prashandak.